There we go. Is this Mr. David Richman?
This is he. Good evening.
David, how are you doing?
I'm pretty fantastic, thank you.
Now we have to talk because I'm really, really interested in this whole story. Like we were saying at the beginning of the show, you rode a bicycle across the country, and the circumstances that really inspired you. I mean, was sadly the passing of your sister due to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how did that inspire you to want to, do this, to ride this bike and form this organization? And I mean, you took on a lot.
Yeah, that's been kind of the bane of my existence, is taking on too much. Taking on a lot. Right? It's funny when I turned, just before I turned 40, right? I was overweight. I maybe weighed like 50 pounds too much. I smoked. I was very, very unhealthy, and I struck up a deal with my kids. I have twins. At the time they were 5 years old, and they said, hey, listen, Dad, you got to stop smoking. And I'm like, yeah, all right, I hear you. And so I stopped, and I said, geez, to not start smoking again, I got to do something that smokers don't do, right? I got to go run or something. And so, because you can't smoke and run at the same time. Right. So I started running, and then by 6 or 7 months later, I was doing my first Ironman. And it's maybe that's a little aggressive, but that's kind of the way I go. So over the next 6 or 8 years, I did a dozen Ironmans. I did 50 ultra marathons, and I did just tons and tons of different events. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but trying to tackle a big project is something that really inspires me and really draws my interest. So back to the original question is, along the path of doing more and more endurance events and trying to see how far I could push myself, my sister got cancer. She passed away about 8 or 9 years ago, and every year I put together an event which is combining endurance athletics with fundraising to try to help raise money and stuff to give to cancer centers to take care of people. And yeah, a couple of years ago, I go, you've done X, why don't you do 2X? And you've done 2X, so why don't you do 5X? And all of a sudden I said, what would it be like to ride my bike across the country in a super, in a super determined way, not leisurely, but ride. Right. And that's how it started. So it was just this thought of how can I push myself. What would be something that would be meaningful, like running to the corner or riding your bike around town. It's not that challenging. What would be challenging? And I figured putting 5,000 miles on the bike would be pretty challenging.
Now, how much, you can't just say, all right, I'm going to do this, and next week go and do it. So, how much actual planning did it take to, route everything? And then, I mean, were you working? Were you self-employed? Did you have a job? Did you have to go into your job and say, "Hey, I'm going to go do this"? And did they think you were crazy?
Yeah, they did. That's a good question. I mean, listen, I've been listening to the show, and I love your last guest and talking about this whole cutting yourself a break and believing in yourself and all of that. I just started maybe 6 or 8 years ago going, geez, maybe I ought to do what's important to me instead of what's important to everybody else. Now that doesn't mean being selfish or whatever, but just focusing
Sure.
on the things that you want to do. And even if that's like, like barbecuing for the kids every night or going to do charity work or whatever it is. I don't mean to be selfish, but I mean just start doing, things for you. And I started planning this thing a few years ago. I wanted to tie together two things, right? I wanted to tie together some like an incredible endurance event, and also tying it together with my next book project. And so it was in the planning stages for a while, and I had gone through a couple of different, not career changes, but steps along my career, and I just got lucky that I was able to take the time off, and I've been planning it for a couple of years, and then certainly in the last like 6 to 12 months, the planning was just kind of insane, and all the little pieces of the whole thing coming together, and the funny thing is as I spent most of the time on all the planning and logistics, and dealing with life and the things that we got to do every day, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time training. So when I got on the bike, it was like, all right, this is not going to be so easy.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to even approach it. I really wouldn't. And it's something like I would say to myself, like, that'd be really cool to do. I mean, it has to be an amazing experience, but I wouldn't even know how to approach it. I'd be scared to even try to approach it.
Okay, but say this 20 years ago about yourself. How would you go about approaching becoming a professional wrestler and having people bust chairs over your head? How would you go about that? You had no idea, but you figured it out, right? Because you wanted to. And so,
True.
If you want to figure something out, if you want to accomplish something, you usually can, right? And the funny thing is, I do a lot of sales training and a lot of motivational speaking, and the example that I give is this. I go, imagine that you had two very tall buildings, right, like 100 feet from each other. Call them like 50-story buildings, 100 feet from each other. And I went up to the top, and I brought you up there, and I put a ladder between the two buildings. And I said, hey, do me a favor, crawl across that ladder from one side to the other. You would laugh at me and go, what, are you kidding me? There's no way I would do that. And then all of a sudden the winds started picking up, and it's like 50-mile-an-hour winds. And I go, come on, go do it now, and I'll put $1 million on the other side of that building. Would you do it? And you might go, yeah, maybe I would. Or you might go, $1 million, I'm not into the money. I don't want to die. I ain't crawling across the ladder. And if I go, well, I could give you eternal happiness or peace because it's going to solve your emotional issues, that might cause you to go across. If I said to you, hey, I'm going to put your infant child in the middle of that ladder, and you got to go save it. Right? Whatever the thing is going to motivate you to do the things that you need to do to figure it out, you will get across that ladder. And regardless of the wind, regardless of the height, regardless of whatever, if you find the thing that motivates you, you will figure it out, right? You'll overcome your fear, you'll overcome your doubts, and you will figure it out. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to do something meaningful. I'm doing a great project on a book that I'm writing, and it was like, well, that's the motivation I needed to do it, and you just figure it out. You just dig yourself as big a hole, or go find the highest ladder or the most difficult thing, and if it means that much to you, then you will figure it out.
Now, when you started and you actually left to do this, did you have a big send off as you pedaled away?
It's funny because that's a funny question because it's kind of anticlimactic. I mean, you know, yeah, I had like 3 people there going, all right, good luck. You know, that was about it. It was like, you know, I mean, no, I mean, there wasn't a big send-off. The first day, so I'm writing this book, right? It's my 4th book, and it's this. I'm documenting for the last year and a half or so, 15 people's emotional journeys with cancer. Okay? So they don't have to be patients or survivors or whatever, just doctors, chief medical officer, survivors, whatever. We're dealing with the emotional issues related to cancer, and not treatment, not care, not how do I prevent, or what do I do when I got it, or none of that. Just how do I deal with it emotionally. And the first day, I went and visited like 1, 2, 3 hospitals / cancer centers and 5 different book subjects. It was a busy day. I was on the news, blah, 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 like all this stuff. It was kind of a big deal. But, yeah, specific to your question, when I took off, I kind of walked outside, and my fiancée took a picture, and my son was with me, and my daughter was clapping, and one buddy came over, and they're like, all right, good luck. Have a good 5,000 miles. See you in a few weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was pretty crazy.
Not what I was expecting.
I know, me neither, right? But that's the funny thing, right? I mean, when you do, when you know, cause I was saying earlier, that thing that makes you crawl across a ladder from one building to the next in a windstorm, when you find the thing that is the thing that you want to do, that makes you feel good, does it really matter if anybody's watching? Does it matter what anybody else thinks? But, you know, it doesn't. What matters is, you know, what you think, and you know, that's the most important thing. And I left feeling really, really pumped up and excited that I was going to get the opportunity to jump on my bike and hit 20 states, you know, 15 book subjects, you know, countless medical facilities, and, you know, meet all these wonderful people along the way, and, you know, see all these beautiful sights, and find out how far I could push myself physically, emotionally, all this stuff. I was completely jazzed. So I didn't care who was looking, right? Because it didn't really matter. The only thing I was trying to figure out is what I was capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, once you put it that way, I mean, he had me actually stop and think. It was like, yeah, I guess you're right. Now, how about, like,
you know, everybody's watching. Like, so I sorry to interrupt you, but everybody's watching. You know, when he was at his prime, everybody was watching Kobe Bryant, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of watches Elon Musk's every business move. You know, there are certain people. Everybody's watching what they do. Nobody's watching me, right? And really freeing to realize that nobody really cares, like, what my every move is, and nobody's judging all the little stuff that I do. You know, when I'm doing an Ironman or a 100-mile run or some crazy, you know, thing, and I want to quit, my body's telling me to quit, and 100 times over I want to quit, I go, man, nobody's looking. And I try to, like, talk myself into it, going, I can leave the course and sneak into my car and drive home and get away without anybody seeing me. And I'm, like, talking myself into quitting, because who's going to care? And then I go, oh, dude, you got to look in the mirror when you get home. Right? That's the only thing that matters. So don't quit, because you're always going to know. Nobody else is probably watching. Nobody else probably cares, but you're always going to know.
Now, did you ever get to that point at all? Did that thought ever cross your mind as you were doing that you wanted to quit?
What's the longest bike ride you ever been on?
Oh, jeez. 20 minutes?
Okay.
20 minutes.
Can we be real for a minute?
Absolutely.
Can we be real for a minute? There is nothing comfortable about being on a bike for 10, 12, 17 hours a day. Okay? There's nothing comfortable about it. It's miserable. And when you're dealing with hills and 100-degree heat, 115-degree heat, something, I bike through a hurricane, traffic. Man, I hit a wall of where I wanted to quit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times during that 6 weeks. Sometimes, 20, 30 times a day. I'm talking to myself saying, "What the hell are you doing? What did you get yourself into? Why don't you just not? Why don't you just stop? It's just no fun."
Wow.
Right? Because there is nothing fun about being on a bike for 17 hours in a day. Your butt's all chafed. You got sunburnt. Your back is sore. Your lips are dry. You're dehydrated. Your stomach shuts down. You got cars honking at you, semis whizzing by you at 70 miles an hour. Whipping up pebbles that are wrecking your body. I mean, it's not fun. But that's part of the allure.
There had to be something that you said to yourself to keep you going.
Yeah. I think the older you get, the more you realize that, like, some other time or next time is actually right now. Like, how many times did you put off a project, or how many times did you tell your buddies, go out without me, I got to stay home and study, or you didn't do that much early on in life, right? You kind of just go, I could do this next week, I could do that next year, or I can put this off till later. And I think that the older you get, the more you realize that next time is right now. And you if you give it everything you can and you got to walk away, that's fine. Right? There's no harm or foul in that. But did you give it everything you could give it? I one of my book subjects, okay, this amazing dude, okay, 52 or 53 days ago, he wrote down on a piece of paper 2 things. He goes, I'm going to stop drinking for 100 days, and I'm going to run in 2-minute intervals, and by the end of 2016, I'm going to be able to run 3 miles. Okay? A couple weeks into it, I sent him an email, and I go, hey, brother, there's a race coming up around you around Thanksgiving. I think you could do it. And he did a 4-point-something mile run. It was more than a 5K. It was like a 4.5-mile run on Thanksgiving Day, and ran the whole thing. He ran the whole. He ran 45 minutes, 5 weeks before he thought he could ever run 3 miles straight. And when I talked to him, I said, "You never would have thought you could do that, and then you did it, and I bet you could have done more." So I think we often don't set high enough goals for ourselves. We often, granted, biking 5,000 miles is a pretty high goal, but we often don't set. Right? We often don't set high enough goals for ourselves. And so that's something that I've learned, that are you getting the most out of this experience? Are you giving it the most effort? Usually the answer to that is no. And so so that's the thing that I kept saying over and over to myself, which is, hey, you want to quit? Nobody's really going to watch. Nobody's really caring. You're always going to know. And honestly, when are you ever going to get an opportunity to try this and have it feel better? Right? There's no next time. Right now is the time. So just keep going. Just figure it out.
Yeah, the time is now. The time is now.
It is, right? I mean, the time is now. That's exactly well said.
Now, you mentioned pedaling through a hurricane. Like, Did you like at any point think like, all right, like I think I could take a break now? I mean, take cover somewhere, or you just pedaled right on through?
So funny. So so it's crazy because if before I went on this ride, right? People go, oh, you're lucky, you're going west to east, man. The wind's always coming out of the west, and then I've learned that when you're on a long bike ride, the wind's coming from whatever direction you're headed. It doesn't do whatever it's supposed to do. It's doing the opposite of what you need it to do. And so I was just hitting wind. If I was heading south, it was coming out of the south. If I was heading east, it was coming out of the east. If I was heading northwest, it was coming out of the northwest. It was just stupid. So this Hurricane Matthew is coming along, and I'm going, I think I'm going to miss it. But, hurricanes go counterclockwise, and the winds go, from north to south, in North America. And I had just turned left in the middle of Florida on the eastern seaboard to head up to New York. Just as the outer bands of that hurricane started hitting. So the winds were just in my face the whole way up the Florida coast. But I said, just keep pedaling and go super fast. And I'm going a little bit faster than the hurricane because it was going like 8 or 10 miles an hour. And I was able to go like 12 or 14 miles an hour. So I'm always going to be ahead of it. And eventually it's going to go out to sea like in South Carolina, Virginia, or something like that. I'll be able to beat it. But it definitely caught me. And there was one day, it was literally stupid. I was biking on the interstate with no traffic because everybody was evacuated. The rain was coming down as solid sheet, and I'm pedaling as hard as I could pedal, and I'm going like 4.5 miles an hour. And I just started laughing, going, like, this is the stupidest thing you've ever done. So I when I had like one of these big like army like army trucks, it's giving support to the local community, like rolls up next to me, and the sergeant or whatever rolls down his window and he's screaming out, "You okay out there? Do you know there's a hurricane going on there? Can we help you?" And I'm giving him the thumbs up, going, "Nah, man, I'm cool. It's all good." He's like, "All right, you be safe." And then he took off, and I'm like going, yeah, maybe this is not a good idea. So, stupid. So I got off the road. My fiance was supporting me at the time. She came and picked me up, and we kind of hid in a hotel that lost power. And the next day we took off, and we got hit by the most severe band of the hurricane overnight, and it was crazy.
So your fiance, I guess, drove along to keep tabs on you the whole time?
Yeah, to keep tabs on me.
You're okay.
Man, she's gonna love that. Yeah, she was keeping tabs on me. No, I was very, very fortunate to have her along. I had this dreamy kind of idea that I was going to leave on the 6 weeks, pack all the stuff I needed in my bag, jump on the bike and go, because the wind goes west to east. I love the heat. Who cares if it's 110 degrees? It's all going to be good. It was really, really hard, like way harder than I anticipated. And being that all the hotel rooms were donated, point A to point B every day means that I got to get to point A from point A to point B because, I had to be on schedule. I had a lot of media, the hotels, and the book subjects and all this other stuff. And it was way harder than I thought. And lucky for me, thankfully, she was able to be there for roughly 2/3 of the time. She had to fly back and forth to California a couple of times for some things, but she was able to be there. So she would, spend, 8 or 10 of the 10 or 12 hours that I was on the road, she would spend supporting me, going back and forth, checking in at the hotel, coming back to give me support, going to scope out the roads, coming back to give me water. She was going back and forth. So luckily, like I said, all but about 15 days or so, I was able to get support. and it was invaluable because otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be on the side of the road still crying my eyes out in New Mexico or something because it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, now that makes it, I like, all right, I can see it now. Okay. Because I was going to say, like, what do you pack? Like, I'm not thinking anybody's with you, just you and this bicycle. I'm like, what do you pack? Like, what do you bring with you? You know?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I had the truck, right? We had a truck, and in the truck was all the gear I needed, and she was able to go back and forth. So I didn't have to carry a ton of stuff, but I was on my own quite a bit. And in fact, you know, I was on my own for some of the longer days that I had to be at, which I'm on a 60-pound bike with all the gear that I need for the next 4 or 5 days. And, I did a couple of 14, 15, even one 17-hour day on my own. But if I had to do that every day for the whole 6 weeks, there's no way I would have been able to make it. There's just no way. So, thankfully I had support. She didn't have to pedal, but I didn't have to do a lot of the stuff that she did where like I could pull over and sit down for a minute while she was taking care of me. And,
right.
I didn't have to do a lot of the the logistics and whatever. I could concentrate on pedaling, and she was helping me coordinate all the meetings and the book subjects and all this other stuff. So it was invaluable to have her help. And I had other friends. I had a friend fly out from California to meet me in New Orleans and support me for a few days. I had another buddy in Florida join me. He was going to join me for a day. He ended up joining me for 3 or 4 days. I had a lot of support along the way. It was pretty remarkable.
That's awesome. Now, how about going along through the way? Like, were you meeting people, or it was just like stopping and doing media interviews, or did you actually like meet like people that were like supporting you throughout this whole voyage?
Yep. Yeah. Well, so I was gone for 6 weeks, and I met like several different types of people. So there were people that supported, that like donated hotel rooms. Met all of them. They were super nice, right?
Wow.
I have the book subjects along the way, so I was able to meet with them. Sometimes it was for dinner. Sometimes it was, just for a quick hello. One of my book subjects biked with me for 2 days.
Nice.
So I got to meet with them. I got to meet with, several, major institutions that were, that I partnered with along the way. So I was able to meet with a lot of people. Then those were kind of scheduled meetings. And then just, along the way, I just met dozens and dozens and dozens of really neat people, all strangers. And it was just the biggest surprise about the whole ride. It was just, it was just fantastic. Like, for example, one time I'm in Dallas, Texas, and I don't know if you know the freeway system in Dallas. It's like an octopus, a concrete octopus, just freeway overpasses, all this other stuff. And I'm on my own. I don't have support, and I'm kind of stuck on the interstate, not knowing where to go. And I'm looking at my GPS, and I'm doing. People are honking at me, and trucks are flying by. And all of a sudden, there's one guy, and I'm totally stressed out. This guy pulls up in front of me, and I'm going, "Oh, great! What does this clown want?" And he jumps out of his car and starts running over to me. And he goes, "Dude!" He goes, "I can't believe it! You're on the interstate biking." He goes, "There's got to be a cool story behind it. Talk to me, brother." And I was just like, "Whoa, who is this guy?" And so I told him what I was doing, and he's like, "Oh my God, I got friends all over the place, and I'm going to promote you on my social media. This is the greatest thing ever. If you don't mind, I'm going to pray for you and talk about you in my church, and I want this bike shop to blah blah." And this guy just hooked me up with like 50 people along the way, and I'm just going, wow. Just because I was driving and riding my bike on the interstate, this guy pulls over, and he's just totally jazzed by what I'm doing, and made such an impact on the ride. I met some of his friends. We got tons of donations from people. It was ridiculous. So I got to meet some really, really neat people.
Are some of these people, are you still like in touch with, like now, like Facebook friends or whatever?
definitely. Are you kidding me? Definitely. Like, probably 100. And it's really touching because, the part of the impetus in this, when you started out asking me this, was about my sister, and when you really think about it, like, we all know somebody that's got heart problems, and whatever. We all know people that have been stricken with different things, and we all know people that suffer from mental illness or whatever. But there seems to be some extra level of, I don't know, sympathy, empathy, kind of bonding when you bring up cancer, right? Excuse me. Everybody knows somebody that's gone through cancer, and you got this kind of mysterious, kind of like, cancer means death, and cancer means this, and it's like when people find out that you're doing something to raise awareness and funds for cancer, and there's like this kind of like instant bonding thing, and everybody knows somebody that's been affected by cancer, whether themselves, the family member, as a survivor, as a patient, as caregivers, whatever. And it just kind of takes away all the differences between people, and it tended, I noticed across the country, it tended to bring out the best in people. Not everybody, but most people. And when you sit down and you talk to people for a minute, or sometimes for an hour, you realize you're part of this club, and that club of we're connected because we're all connected through this thing called cancer, and it's just mysterious. Nobody can figure it out, kind of affliction that just gives people a common ground. And so I think the people that I ran into, you form just the immediate and very true bond with them. And so I hope to be in contact with these people and them with me for hopefully forever. It's really a neat thing.
Now let me ask you this, and this is something that I've people have bonded over cancer. I've lost my mother, my father to cancer, various other family members, and I've always wanted to do something similar to what you've done. Not ride a bike around the country. I mean, if I honestly think I could do it, I would do it. But I've wanted to do the same thing: raise awareness and raise money. Then I say to myself, like, the whole money aspect. I say to myself, all the millions and probably billions of dollars that have been raised, where does it all go? And I kind of feel like it's being, I don't know, like it's not being used properly, I should say.
I hear you. And you think that it doesn't really matter. I'm going to tell you a story in 1 second, but let me just ask you, so how old were you when your parents, both of them, died of cancer?
My father died when I was 4, and my mother died when I was 18.
Both of them of cancer?
Yep.
Wow. So you don't even remember your dad, huh?
Barely.
Barely, right?
There's like maybe a handful of things, like moments that I remember of him.
Were you able to find out what he was like by talking to other people?
You know what? I still, to this day, when I sit, like when we have like family gatherings and all, it always gets brought up, like about my father and stuff. Yeah.
Like what kind of guy he was and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool, man. That's tough. That is tough. And then, so you're a teenager and you got your mom to rely on, and then she dies of cancer too?
Yep.
Wow. What was she like?
She was, she literally was an angel. She just, she was an incredible person. She really was. And like when she died, the thing that was really, I guess, like angering about the whole situation with her was, she knew she had it. Like she knew for like 2 years she had it and never said nothing. She had breast cancer. And what happened was she was at the local supermarket doing food shopping, and literally like passed out in the store, and they rushed her to the hospital, and they discovered like literally her breast had turned black. They said, and she was just scared. She knew what it was, and she was scared.
So she was scared. She just never went to have it taken care of. Do you think that's left over from what your father might have gone through, or?
I think that was part of it. And also because, like talking to our previous guest, I'm in therapy, and a lot of it is about my parents. I sit and talk about them every week. And something I've really come to realize over the last few years is she really did shut down. Like, she didn't do nothing. Like, her life literally became raising me and cleaning a house every day, cooking and smoking cigarettes and watching TV. That was her life. The next so many years. And I realize now, like, she was alone. Like, that was her true love, and he wasn't in her life anymore, and she just kind of shut down, and I've come to realize that now, and I see it, looking at it as I'm older now, I can see it and realize it now.
Wow, man, that is tough. And you have no brothers and sisters?
I have a sister. I had. She passed away 2 years ago.
Oh,
from leukemia.
Man. From leukemia?
Yep.
So talk about being an expert in the emotional damage caused by cancer. You might be a world-renowned expert in that.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man, you are one tough dude. I can hear that. I would say that I think being cynical about the money thing is a natural reaction, but I think you would find that that's an easy place to go. When I did a couple of there's a cancer center at UCLA that took care of my sister, and she had such a rare form of brain cancer that they kind of gave her extra attention, right? Because they made a board study out of her, and so that might have extended her life, and the quality of care that she got was extended. And I did a couple of fundraisers in the first few years after she passed away, and then I did one fundraiser where I did not raise that much money. Right? Okay. It was pretty pitiful, right? And I called up the special events lady, and I kind of apologized, and I go, I feel really guilty. We didn't really raise a lot of money. And she goes, "Are you kidding me?" She goes, "You got to understand." She goes, "We don't look at how much money you raise for us. We get to tell your story over and over and over to tons of people. Every year you're doing something. We get to bring up the fact that you continue to do it every year." She goes, "Do not worry about how much you raise or don't raise." She goes, "We tell your story all the time." She goes, "That's number one. Number two is when a researcher needs an assistant, or a researcher has some costs that are incurred, they got to raise that money one way or another. They got to lobby for it, or they got to hope they get a grant for it, or they got to walk into the director and explain." Do you realize how much $1 means, or $5 or $1,000 mean when you need a research assistant to help you with a certain issue? She goes, "Every dollar matters." And so here's what I figure, right? Okay, I know that I could work my whole life and give it everything that I could give it, and I will raise a drop in a bucket to if Oprah Winfrey went on her TV show and said, "All right, everybody, go to X website and donate some money and help this cancer center out." She's going to raise 1,000,000 times what I could ever raise in one treatment than I could raise in my whole life.
Sure.
Right? So I can either go, it's not worth my effort, or I could go, you know something? Maybe my dollar was the grain of rice that tipped the scale. Maybe my telling somebody to go get treatment or to inspire them to do something maybe that's the thing that leads to something, that leads to something, that leads to something meaningful. You never know.
Right.
Right? You just don't know. So I would rather be an optimist and right than a pessimist and wrong. So I could walk around being pessimistic and cynical, like this is not going to make a difference, and who am I? You know, there was 3 people at my send-off, or it doesn't matter. Because want to know something? If you affect one person the right way, or you send the right dollar to the right place, it actually does make a difference, or it could make a difference. And so I think being cynical or being negative about, I don't know what kind of difference I could make, I think that's an easy way out. I really do believe that anything that you do that you're passionate about and that could have an effect on people, you have no idea how long of that could trickle down, and you could have a remarkable effect on people and not even know it, right?
Wow.
I mean, right? So why not do it?
Yeah. I'm glad, like, it's been something that's bothered me for years, like that whole, like, and I've never known, like, somebody to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've helped other people do, like, fundraising and stuff, and I've always said to myself, like, how do you know it's being used right? Or you know what I mean? Like,
I hear you, but it's a great question, and probably there's a ton of waste, and probably there's like, what does it all mean? I got you on that. Right. But you know, I'll give you one super quick story. Okay, I don't know that this means like that it would solve any problems. It's not going to solve life's issues. It's not going to make a difference in the way that some cancer institute deals with the problem of cancer. But how I know that this stuff, that every tiny little interaction could be meaningful is this. So I'm at the end of a really long day. Okay, it's like one of my longest days. It's 17 hours, 150 miles, and I'm as beat as you could be. Like it was the scariest day I ever had, right? And I'm all alone, and I get to the hotel, and I walk in, and the girl behind the counter comes rushing over. She goes, "Oh, my God, I've been looking forward to you getting here. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're safe." I'm like, great, thanks. I just want to bed. She goes, "You know, my grandfather died of cancer 4 years ago. He took care of me. I'm so super close to him. I'm so glad that you're doing this. Thank you so much," and whatever. I go up to my room, and I get a pop-up on my phone and I saw her name, and I see this pop-up on my phone that she made a $10 donation. And I'm like, how sweet is that, right? That is so nice, right?
That's awesome.
So is $10 going to make a difference in fighting cancer? No, but I thought, how sweet is that? So I get back. A couple of weeks later, I get this nice email from her. "Oh, you know, you helped me reconnect with the thought of my grandfather. I really appreciate what you did. I really enjoyed meeting you. And oh, by the way," she goes, "I'm hoping that donation that I made is not a recurring donation because I cannot afford $10 a month." Wow. And I went, right? If some corporation can give away $10 million and not feel it, she could give $10 and feel it that much. Which one's more meaningful?
Right.
To me, the $10 is more meaningful. So who's to say that it's not the money's being wasted, or it's I don't know. It's above my pay grade, man. But I gotta believe that her $10 was as important as the $10 million that Ford Motor Company wrote. So I sent her a note going, "No, that was a one-time donation. Don't worry about it. But thank you for taking the time to write the note." And so you never know what kind of effect you could have on people. You never know what could happen over something that you do. And I would encourage you that if you want to do whatever it is, it doesn't even matter what it is. If you want to do something and you're doing it for you and you're doing it to help heal yourself, or you're doing it because you think it's the right thing to do, or you just want to feel better for a day, or you want to let other people know, that you understand their pain or whatever, I would say do not discount it. Just do it.
It's funny too because I actually was like putting a list together yesterday of things I really want to try to do and accomplish in 2017, and that was one of the things. Was I really wanted to like try to do some charity work and do stuff like that. And I think you've really opened my eyes to things a little bit, and you were explaining things to me to make me realize, like, every little bit can help, and maybe it can make a difference.
Yeah, it's weird because until you see that stuff, I totally get your question. Like, look at all this waste and this billions of dollars and what's going on. And
right.
My fiance was reading this article to me yesterday, as a matter of fact, about some drug in that a research facility in Israel came out of, and it was tens of millions of dollars of research and they all of this stuff, and the punchline of the story is that in the test subjects it extended their life like 21 weeks. And I mean, you went from 37 to 59 weeks. I mean, really? That's the payoff for these years and years of research and tens of millions of dollars is, this kind of like small gain. Granted, 22 weeks of somebody that's dying is a lot of weeks, but I'm just saying, really, that's not like that big of a deal, but it kind of is, because one thing can lead to the next, to the next, to the next, and I just I just have seen how the tiniest little things can affect people in such a positive way that, if you did something and it only made one person go home happy for the day seeing what you did, wow, how great is that?
Yeah, and that's the one thing I've said too. Like, all the millions and billions or whatever it is of dollars that's been raised over the years, and you mean to tell me they didn't find a cure yet? That's the one thing I've always said, and it's driven me crazy.
Yeah, it does drive you crazy. If you read a lot and you read some books out there and you listen to people, researchers, and I think you kind of understand how it's a really, really complicated a disease. I mean, it's very, very, very complicated. And as we learn more about the human body, we learn more about the science. The numbers and the math are kind of insane. And so you kind of get how there hasn't been a cure now. Now, because of all the money and because of all the research, there are cancers now that are curable today that were not curable before. Right? No doubt, that's a straight fact. But cancer itself is there's no cure for cancer. There are cures for certain types of cancers that's come out of this research. But it's such a amazingly difficult disease that you, once you learn about it, you can understand how it's so difficult to find a cure or to find treatments. It's really quite remarkable, and I would expect it's going to be past our lifetime before a cure is found for kind of cure for cancer, as it were. But it's definitely going to happen.
I hope so. I really do, because you know what? Watching family members go through it, I don't want to see. It kills me to see people go through that.
Yeah, man, especially you. I mean, you've seen it firsthand way too often, way too close to home. And I mean, there's nothing other to say other than, I feel you, and it's like it can be disheartening, and it can be like overwhelming, and you just gotta say, okay, I gotta figure out a way to put one step in front of the other, and I gotta do the things that I want to do. I mean, heck, I haven't talked to too many people recently that would understand as much as you that today is now is today.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Now, what do you think? What do you think your sister would say? Not even about raising money or any of this. What do you think she would have said about you riding a bike around the country?
Well, I'm writing the book right now, so one of the themes for the book, I'm having people deal with the emotional issues of cancer, and each individual story is like a 20 to 40 page memoir, and it's all kind of tied together, bound by the bike ride. So the bike ride's kind of like the tie that binds the stories together, and the theme of that story is exactly to your question of what do I think she would think, and that came to be when people kept saying, why are you doing this? And I say, oh well, I want to bring awareness, I want to raise money, and I got this book. Yeah, but why are you doing this? And I'm like, well, because really, like, why are you doing it? And I think that your question is one of the major motivators. Why am I doing it? Because what I often let myself fantasize about what she would think. Why? Because it's important.
Sure.
You don't have the luxury of knowing if your mom and dad are proud of you right now. You don't have that luxury, and because your mom and dad aren't here. But so you have to fantasize about it. You have to go, oh, would they be proud of me, or would this make a difference, or would this be something they would notice? And that's probably part of my motivation for doing it and making it so difficult and having it be such a big deal is because, I think she would be proud. I think she would go, you're probably freaking nuts for doing it. I don't really get it. She would probably go, why the heck did you get on that bike for so long? But honestly, in the whole thing taken into the whole thing, I think she would be proud. And maybe that's a little selfish of me to want my sister to be proud of me, but it's not the worst motivator in the world,
Yeah, right.
Right? Right?
Yeah, I think no doubt she'd be proud.
Yeah, and that's not the worst motivator, right? That's not the worst motivator. And if whether it's a nod to your parents or a nod to my sister or whatever, if you do something and you go, that's a wink. That's a wink, to myself, to my family member, to my friend, to some stranger that I met or whatever. Yeah, that's a pretty good reason to do something. So I think that she would be proud, and I think that's part of my motivation for her doing it because, I'm not gonna have the ability to tell her anything that I think about her, nor hear anything that she thinks about me because she's gone now.
You think this is also like a type of way for you to like keep a piece of her alive with you?
Yeah, I do. It's an odd thing, right? I mean, you got a couple. You said a couple of minor memories of your dad, but the memories that you have of your mom is static in time, and it's stuck right there, right? Because you didn't get to see her 5 years later, 10 years later, right? So those family members, those friends, those loved ones that pass away, they pass away and they're kind of frozen in that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think more, it's not like, we age and we grow and we evolve and we change. So unfortunately, they can't do that with us. So it's a complicated question. But when you say, does it help kind of keep her memory alive or keep you close to each other? Yes and no. I mean, she's stuck in time, so that's my memory of her, and
right.
So that can't evolve, right? but I think it's more of a more of a wink. It's a nod. It's a, hey, I understand where I came from. I understand where I lost you, and I'm not going to let go of that. Now, I'm not going to harp on it every day. I'm not going to wear it like a weight around my neck. I'm not going to wear it like a badge of honor or anything like that. But I'm gonna carry it with me because I'm gonna remember, where I came from and give a nod and a wink to who you are and who you were,
Right.
And so I mean that's my personal take on it, and I think that I think it's tough to reconcile anybody's death, especially somebody that's close to you. And I think if you can have any kind of a healthy outlet to reconcile it in your head and be okay with it, and not avoid it and let it sink in and kind of, process it and feel good about it. I mean, as much as you could feel good about it, but be okay with it.
Sure.
That's a healthy thing,
There you go. Cool. All right, so where?
Man, good thing we kept it light, my man.
I know, right? Where can everybody find out more about you and Cycle of Lives and get your? I mean, you have other books out as well, and
I do. The name's David Richman, so Richman, David Richman. They can look up on the web, cycleoflives.org, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those good things. It's a Cycle of Lives is where they can find everything, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We give our money to comprehensive cancer centers, support networks, organizations that support people that are going through cancer or fighting cancer, youth organizations, other type of stuff, all different organizations that are dealing with fighting cancer or supporting those people that are going through cancer. And so all donations are tax deductible. 100% of the proceeds of all donations go directly to these institutions. So it's kind of a neat thing. You can find out more about the project, about the book subjects, and everything by just looking up Cycle of Lives.
Nice, David. Yeah. It's been a wonderful conversation, and you truly are like a totally different person. You are.
Or totally crazy, but thank you. That's very nice of you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Driven sounds so much better than crazy.
Driven sounds so much better, doesn't it? I love that. Of course it's totally driven. And yeah, listen, good luck. I would say, 2017 is a great year to do those goals you want to do, especially, anything that makes you feel good about the stuff that you're doing. That's always important. And, if you ever want to talk again or have me on, I'd totally consider it an honor, and I'll be there.
Yeah, when the book comes out, we have to get you back on. Any idea when it will come out?
I'm hoping by about the third quarter of 2017.
Okay.
I'm working on it now. It's going well, but this one will probably be published sometime around third quarter of 2017, and what the goal of it is to help people understand what people are going through, what are the emotions behind what they're going through, either as a loved one or survivor or a patient or a caregiver, in the hopes that once you understand what's going on with people, you can better deal with your own trauma or deal with how to interact with people that are going through difficult things like cancer.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, David, again, thank you so much. This has been really great, and you're a hell of a guy. You really are, and good luck with everything.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's very nice. I really enjoyed the time. Good luck, and I appreciate you allowing me to enjoy the time with you, and I'll be here at the ready. So thank you very much, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks. And you too.
All right. Have a good night.
Take care. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.